Hello and welcome to my FlossTube channel. I'm Jean Farish, and once again I am so happy to be spending this time with you to talk about cross stitch and other needlework related things. But before I get into my big trip that I want to share with you, I just want to remind you to subscribe, and if you would like to get notifications when I have a new episode, hit that little bell icon and then you'll get notices. So I took a lot of photos on my 2,000-mile needlework trip, but I still didn't take enough. As I was preparing for this video today, I realized there were a lot of things I kept thinking, oh, I wish I had taken a picture of that or a picture of that. But I know that I get so excited when meeting people who share my passion for needlework, I just forget. And so next thing you know, I'm on to the next place, and I either have forgotten to take a picture or I've gotten a good picture, but I've got to write down the name of the person I was talking to. And anyway, so I'll just do my best with this. Just piece it all together. So my first stop was in the Myrtle Beach, South Carolina area. And I got to spend a couple of days with a good friend, just sitting back and relaxing and stitching. And that was fantastic. Saturday of that weekend, I taught at Barefoot Needle Art in Surfside Beach, South Carolina, one-day class on my tropical scissor fob. That was a wonderful class. Met up with a lot of people that I've crossed paths with previously, either by a class or a cruise or in some way our needlework lives have crossed, and lots of new people as well. And of course, we got to shop, and that's always a treat. Barefoot Needle Art has really expanded since the last time I was there. It's really a nice shop, and the owners are just as delightful as they can be. So if you're in the Surfside Beach area, definitely stop in and see the folks at Barefoot Needle Art. Now, from there, my friend Mindy and I drove to Northern Virginia, and besides getting to visit with one of my sisters, we went to 3 needlework destinations. Well, the third one is, well, I'll get into that when I get there. Anyway, we went to Total Framing in Fairfax. They also have a store in Chantilly, Virginia. We went to the one in Fairfax. We went to In Stitches in Alexandria, and then we went to a really nifty store called Artistic Artifacts. So let me tell you a little bit about each one of those. I knew when I walked in the door at Total Framing, I was going to find exactly what I wanted. I had 2 projects fully stitched, ready to frame, and I immediately found exactly what I wanted for the bison and elk sampler that's been languishing for way too long without a frame, so I was happy to find that one. My 2 turtles and a flamingo sampler was a different story. I tried so many different frames and was about to give up when, lo and behold, Mindy found the perfect molding for me. I also brought with me the sampler that I'm stitching right now. I had enough done that I knew I could pick out the style of frame, and then I will email them or call them later with the actual dimensions. Our next stop was at In Stitches in Alexandria, Virginia, and I was fortunate that the owner, Ellen, was there at the shop, and we were able to have a nice chat about the cross-stitch industry. I was so impressed with Ellen's shop. The models, the charts, the threads, the fabrics, she had it all. And I just want to tell you that with it being so close to many important historic sites, this is a destination cross-stitch shop. Our last stop that day was Artistic Artifacts, with a tagline of creative finds for creative minds. This was a store full of inspiration in the form of color, texture, and materials. There was fabric, trims, laces, beads, threads, paint, ink. I was just amazed at the range and the depth of the materials that I found there. This will definitely be a place I will return to. And of course, we found time to goof around the kitchen, enjoy my sister's good cooking, and play a couple of board games. In Pittsford, New York, of course, our main destination was Hobby House Needleworks, but we also enjoyed shopping right next door at the affiliated store that features everything to do with wool. Wool applique, rug hooking, really any craft that requires high quality wool fabric. The shop right now is also housing their quilt fabrics. And then we enjoyed a couple of hours of stitching with friends. While I'm thinking about this, here's a tip I want to give you about going to any kind of retreat, and that is to read everything the organizers send to you. Just make the assumption that if they're going to take the time to write it, then it's important stuff that you need to know. In the case of Stitch North, we were asked not to bring anything to do with peanuts or tree nuts, which, reading between the lines, that told me that somebody who was in attendance must have a really keen allergy. And of course, those of you who are aware know that it can be life-threatening. So I took that very seriously. I really like the fact that they took care to make sure that every attendee was going to be safe. So, okay. The other thing I want to say is talk a little bit about is table made gifts. Now, this has become an accepted but not necessarily expected treat when you are going to any kind of a gathering like this. And a table made gift can be something simple and inexpensive. It can be something a lot more time consuming. I think that there is sort of an unspoken assumption that nobody is going to make or do anything that's incredibly elaborate for all their table mates. Now, that might be different if you are going to a gathering where the 6 or 8 or 10 table mates already have some sort of a stitching relationship and they decide amongst themselves what they want to do. So, barring that, in general, a table mate gift can be something as simple as a zipper pull or a homemade, heart-made needle minder to something that's stitched or made or assembled in some way. So I'm going to kind of share with you a range of the things that I received as my table mate gifts and gifts from other attendees, as well as things that were in our swag bag. So I felt like a kid in a candy store. It felt like Christmas and my birthday all rolled into one with all these neat little things I want to show you. So, but before I get into that, this is an important thing. I don't want you to walk away from this conversation thinking, well, I could never go to a treat because I can't do or make something for everybody that would be at my table. Forget that right now. Again, it is not a requirement. These are gifts. And anybody who's offended that they sit down at a table and they don't get something from one of their table mates, that's somebody you don't want to be friends with anyway, in my opinion. But again, it's kind of a fun feature of most retreats. So once you find out how many people are going to be at your table, that might help you decide what you want to do. Okay, so I'm going to show you quite a range here. I had dreams of being terribly organized with this whole thing, but I can tell you right now that's not going to happen. So in our swag bag, we had this cute little Ort container that I think is going to be kind of a mainstay for me. And this was from, gotta put my glasses on, I Can So Make That, which was one of the vendors. So that was kind of nice. We got this beautiful needle minder from the organizer, Evertote, with the Stitch North logo on there, and that was really nice. Now I'm going to get this all mixed up as far as what was in my swag bag and what wasn't. Oh, this was something made by my table mate, and she had a whole bunch of these, and we got to pick one out. They were all these little miniature books, and she made them into a needle minder. So that was really nice. And as somebody who stitches in hand, I really appreciate the fact that this one is so lightweight. Lots of needle minders. This one, oh, I met the snickerdoodle person. So that's a really pretty little needle minder made from a bottle cap with Stitch North 2023. A nice souvenir there. Oh, we got this lovely little kit with some hand-dyed fabric and floss and a chart that's a little mermaid from Brennan Needle. I think this was in my swag bag. It's a stamp. This one's commemorating the Australian bicentennial. So that's nice. That's from the sewing shop. Oh, one of my table mates gave me this nifty little miniature postcard and a 2023 charm and a needle threader. And another table mate gave me beeswax and a bunch of little charms. So that was nice. Oh, this I'm pretty sure was in my swag bag. This was another one of the vendors, Rocky Mountain Needle Minders. I left some money at her booth, that's for sure. She had really cute needle minders. Karen did a good job with that. Another needle minder. This one says, As You Stitch. So that's pretty. Oh, from my stitchy friend. Oh, Suzanne Carroll. Yeah, she was one of my table mates. Okay, cool. See, that shows you how much I remember. Boy, do I sound ungrateful? I hope not. Suzanne, I'm sorry. Cute. Okay. Another needle minder. Again, a really light one, which is nice for me with a maple leaf. So I will always think of my time in Canada with that one. And they're all sticking together. This is from Otter Rose. Cute little frog. Again, a needle minder. My friend Sue from Texas made, and I'm not going to be able to demonstrate this entirely the way she intended it, but this fits over a 5x7 lucite frame, sort of like, sort of stand up like this, and so then it has these little pockets that you can put stuff in them. Like this is another thing from one of our table mates with a little chili pepper, so I could just stick that in a little pocket, and once it's standing up, then that would just be right there. So that's kind of cool. A couple things were unintentionally coordinated. I got this cute little pendant, and that just goes right with it, doesn't it? Oh, and she also, this is a little place for your needles. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, just like that. Let's see. Speaking of needles, somebody gave me a nice set of gold DMC needles. And this came from, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Kemet Designs. Little, I guess it could be a zipper pull or put it on scissors, or lots of different things you could do with that. And this was another little gift with a charm and some buttons in there. So you can see there's a big variety, but the most unusual one that I got, and I just have to shout out to my friend's husband who made these wooden boots. This is hand carved. Look at this, folks. Isn't that just the cutest thing? And it's made to hold your scissors. So there's a little hole drilled in there for the point. Isn't that just the cutest thing? So again, I mean, everything from, the simple to the much more time-consuming to the handmade thing that my friend Sue made for everybody. It's just going to all vary. And every one of these are absolutely treasured and will just be a nice reminder, a souvenir of my time at Stitch North. People who are anticipating going to their first retreat, or they're still thinking about registering for one, very often ask the question what to expect at a Stitch gathering. And the one thing I think everybody says is that you can expect to meet new friends. And there are people that I don't know, I have such a collection of friends. I can't even remember where I met each one of them, and every one of them is precious to me. And so I'm stumbling all over myself here, because I'm feeling pretty passionate about this, that, if it's in your nature and in your budget, both financial and time-wise, and you can get yourself to a retreat of any size, go. Don't even hesitate if you are by yourself. You will only be by yourself if you want to be. When we first got to the hotel on Thursday night, before the retreat started Friday morning, friends that I knew were going to be there, that we had pre-planned meeting there, were gathering together in the lobby. And as I walked by, I saw somebody sitting by themselves. I walked over, I introduced myself, and I said, "Are you by yourself?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Come on over if you want to. My friends and I are getting together, over there in the corner. You're more than welcome to join us." And she packed up her things and came. And so, expect that kind of hospitality from people. Don't think that you are going to be, stuck being by yourself. That said, the other thing I want to say about going to retreat, again, depending on your personality, there are a lot of people who can only take being in a crowd so much. And every once in a while, they just need a retreat from the retreat, so to speak. In which case, that's when it's nice, if you're staying in the hotel where the retreat's being held, don't even hesitate just to say to everybody, taking a break, going up to my room for a half hour or whatever, and just go and do it. Put your feet up, read a book, take a nap, stitch, whatever you want to do, if that's what you need for self-care. If you are someone who loves the hum and buzz of the conversation and never gets tired of it, even those people you need to set your watch or your phone to beep every hour, so that you can get up and stretch and not be sitting the entire time. So those are two little self-care tips I want to share with you. One of the interesting things that happened in our group, and I saw this happen a couple of times, where people sat down at a table, never met each other before, and in talking, they find out they live 10 miles from each other. I mean, what are the odds of that? So although you may make some long distance friends, you also might meet people that are right in your neighborhood. And wouldn't that be nice? One of the things that I enjoy at a retreat is walking around and looking at other people's setup. That's where I get a lot of good ideas about ways of organizing my stitching tools when I'm on the go. The other thing that's kind of interesting, and again, this is going to vary from retreat to retreat, excuse me, and that is, don't feel like you are restricted by the chairs that are provided in the ballroom. I have seen people who have brought those sort of folding camp chairs, many of which are incredibly comfortable. Some of them are even rocking chairs. Some of them have built-in footrests. One of our table mates found that one of the chairs in her room was particularly comfortable. Happened to be like an office-type chair on wheels. She wheeled it onto the elevator, brought it down, wheeled it down the hallway, and that was what she sat on starting, I guess, the second day. I stitch most comfortably if I am seated with some sort of a lumbar pillow, which I brought with me, and with my feet elevated. So I found a little three-legged folding camp stool that I brought with me. Folded up, and in its little sleeve, it's not much bigger than an umbrella, so it's very easy to bring to something like this. So do think about your own comfort. The other thing that you'll find is that you will get all kinds of stitching ideas, not just ideas for your next project or your next 10 projects when you see what people are stitching. But one of my biggest takeaways from this retreat came from a woman named Colleen. Let me show you what she did. Colleen was close to being finished when I wandered over to her table, and I was just amazed at her background. And at first, I assumed that she was following a chart, but it ended up that what she actually did was to stitch little shapes, hearts and swirls, with the darker part of the overdyed floss. And then when she got to the lighter colors, she would fill in. I hope that this explains it, but I think in a future episode, I'm going to try to actually demonstrate what she did. Also, let me jump in here and add this little small world note. In talking with Colleen, I think she said she needed a total of 8 skeins of this overdyed thread to do the background. This piece is really, really large. And she only had 7 that were identical. She had an 8th one, but the colors were a little off. So when she was visiting different needlework stores, she was looking. I didn't ask her, but I kind of assumed that Colleen lives in Canada. Colleen, if you're watching this and I have just put you in the wrong country, please forgive me. But the interesting small world thing is that she just casually said that when her family was on vacation in Florida, she went into a needlework store, and lo and behold, they had the 8th skein that was going to match her piece. So I said, Florida, which shop was that? She goes, oh, it's called the Cross Stitch Cupboard. And I'm like, that's my friend Karen Owen's shop. So here I am meeting this person in Canada. We were just slightly west of Toronto. And she found the skein of floss at a shop owned by my very dear friend in Florida. So we stitchers live in a very, very small world. There is so much more about the goings-on at Stitch North that I want to share with you. And I think that this video is already getting kind of long. So I think the best course of action is to plan ahead and know that there'll have to be a part 2 in the next episode. Before I leave you today, I want to remind you that I've got classes coming up at my local needlework store in Greensboro called Stitch Point on Friendly. There are 2 classes that still have openings, and that is a cute little Christmas ornament. It's a needlepoint class where you'll learn this beautiful composite stitch. So that's one. The other one is called Celtic Twist. And although I will show you my colorway, the lovely thing about this class is that people get to choose their own colorway. And over the years when I've taught this class, I've seen a lot of amazing, interesting, exciting, gorgeous color combinations that students have come up with. So it's a fun way of personalizing your work while learning a half dozen or so needlepoint stitches. And of course, I'll be in Hershey in the fall teaching my Hare and basket sampler and an ornament finishing class. So both of those are coming up in the fall. Got some new things in my Etsy store that I've added since I got home, and more things to come. So be checking that out. And one last thing. If you're interested in a stitching cruise, I really want to encourage you to get on our mailing list. In the episode description, I'm going to include a link to the page in our Stitchers Escapes website where you can log on and subscribe to our newsletter. Now, let me just tell you right now, you are not going to get bombarded with newsletters. We don't have time to spam your inbox. We only send out newsletters to our general population when we have news about an upcoming cruise. Now, right now, both our 2023 and our 2024 cruises are full. We're not accepting any more registrations for those. But the best way to find out about our cruises early enough to get on board is through that newsletter. So, make sure that you subscribe to that. Anyway, so I had just an exciting 2,000-mile trip. One of the best things is after traveling and hanging out with Mindy for almost 2 weeks, we're still very good friends, and that's always an accomplishment. I just came home just tired but energized, if it's possible to be both at the same time. And I just, I'm just so glad that I am able to share some of that with you today. So between now and the next time we get together, stitch happy, stay safe, and I'll see you then.